Um, well, I mean, I I was always a big hard rock and heavy metal fan as a child. So once I became a teenager, wanting to play guitar and playing metal, I guess just came naturally as a an option. As far as um, why I decided to start incantation and stuff in the style we did, I was actually playing in my previous band Revenant before that for about 3 years, and around that time I got heavily into like the underground tape trading world and stuff, and I started hearing a lot of demos by a lot of different kind of death metal bands all over the world, like kind of like early death metal, like Death and Massacre and Necrovore and Necrophagia, all that kind of stuff. And I just really, really was drawn to that kind of darker side of music. I just liked the aura of it and stuff, and I wanted to add that stuff into the band I was playing with at the time called Revenant, but they wanted to go in a different direction, which was more refined and technical. So I was at a crossroads. I made a decision that I wanted to, do I want to stick with this band and kind of go with the flow, I guess, or do I want to start something else with my own vision? And I decided to do Incantation. But I mean, really, it was just the rougher edge of underground music back in the '80s was really the main influence. I mean, I've always been into horror movie kind of stuff and just the darker side of life, I guess, kind of I've always been into. But it was really just once I heard some of the, especially like early Necrovore or like the early Morbid Angel demos and stuff like that, I just really I felt something special in there, and I kind of realized that that's where I feel comfortable expressing myself with. And then when we did Incam, I wanted to do, I wanted to play death metal, but I wanted to do it in my own personal way. Like I wanted to have my own vibe, my own sound to the band. I didn't want to just copy the other bands that were kind of starting to come out around that time, like Obituary and Morbid Angel had an album out, Terrorizer, Entombed. I liked those bands, but I didn't want to be them. I wanted to be distinctively ourselves, and that's what I always try to do. I wanted to incorporate the doomier side of metal into it, and I also wanted to just have more of a atmosphere to the music. I didn't want it just to be straightforward. I didn't want it to just be like a straightforward, fast and aggressive. I wanted it to also be dark at the same time. With the term death metal? Well, I mean, the first time I really heard the term death metal was from Possessed on Seven Churches. They were kind of the first band to kind of coin that term. Also, Onslaught had a song called Death Metal 2 off their first album. So, I mean, the term was coined early mid 80s, I guess 83 or 84 it was Possessed, I guess. So the style had a name to it, but it was different at that time. Death metal, I mean, metal wasn't as segregated as it is now. Like back then, to be death, black, speed, all this kind of different kind of metals were all kind of very close in genre as far as just like the way we looked at it. But I think probably the first like full-on death metal album that probably came out that I can remember, as far as like a full length might have been like Death, Scream Bloody Gore was probably the first one I could think of. I mean, there were demos out of other bands like Math and Death Strike, stuff like that. That was death metal, and there were a lot of other demos that were out were death metal before then. But as far as like actual official release, I just remember Scream Bloody Gore because I remember um, my friend picked up the album and he played it for me, and I knew Death already before that, but when I heard that album, I knew there was something special about it. Like this was kind of like the beginning of a new generation of metal, you know. Um, I don't know. I mean, I learned a lot from playing in my former band Revenant. Like we were pretty popular. We were more of like a death thrash kind of band in the '80s, and I just everybody was really ambitious, and I think with Incan pretty early on we you know moved ahead with that ambition as far as like we did a lot of just passing out flyers everywhere, doing lots of uh, tape trading and sending letters out to different fanzines and sending. We just really pushed it. I mean, you know, I think you know we always held ourselves at a higher standard, I guess, than just a normal garage band. We always looked at ourselves as, you know, we're gonna do things kind of on our own terms. So, once we did get signed, it wasn't like the work ethic was already really strong. Like I learned a lot from playing in Revenant to really work hard and to just get on as many shows as possible and stuff. So I just took that with me to Incantation. So we were already kind of, holding ourselves to kind of a higher standard already from the beginning. So it was a really easy transition once we got signed. I mean, dealing with the business stuff was not easy because I never dealt with that before. But as far as like just playing wise and trying to, pushing the band as far as promotion aspect, we were just always really hard workers at it. We didn't really take anything for granted, you know. Yeah. Well, um, it was. I mean, it was always difficult, especially early on, for us to keep the band, get a lineup and stuff, because we were kind of doing something different than everybody else. So it took a while to find even the lineup that, say, we did our first album with. But the problem was is that people change their minds on what they want to do, or like honestly, probably for our first album, I mean, we were friends, but it was on my end, it was more of a working relationship with the guys in the band more than a friendship kind of thing. So I mean, I was really I was really specific on the people I wanted to play with in the band and the vibe I wanted and everything. So it's sometimes very difficult when other people are in the band and they want to explore different areas musically. You know, sometimes you get to a bone of contention, or if other guys in the band decided that they didn't want to, you know, do as much touring or whatever the situation might come about, it was really difficult for me to deal with because I formed the band. I had a specific vision for the band, and I wanted everybody in the band to have the same sort of ambition and kind of, honestly, to kind of think like me. So it was very difficult to keep members early on. until you know, I mean, you know, it's a shame when that stuff happens, but a lot of times it really happens for the best because, you know, every person that you have in the band brings something different to the table, brings different aspects that are good and bad, and really all the changes that we did make in the band, or at least most of them, were done because we wanted to keep the purity of the band the same. A lot of times you work with somebody and they're into doing it, but then maybe they grow into other style of music they want to do. We had a lot of problems with certain members wanting to go black metal or certain members wanting to play more of an all doom kind of style. And I was honestly kind of strict about it. Like, you know, we're death metal, but we can have these other elements in the band, but I don't want to change the sound to you know, anything else than what we started off being, because, you know, I just didn't want to be a trendy band. I wanted to be a band that stuck to its guns. And unfortunately, sometimes sticking to your guns, you have to go through a lot of you know, different lineups and find the right people to work with. I mean, to be fair though, I mean, a lot of bands that keep the same lineup change their style immensely, you know, throughout their career. So, you know, I actually changed lineups to keep the band the same. You know, the opposite. You know, I mean, and one thing to make clear too, I'm sorry, is that I formed the band with Paul Ledney with a basic concept, and my goal was to find like-minded members to play the vision that I had and shared in my vision. It wasn't. We never started the band as a bunch of kids getting together saying, "Oh, let's start a band and let's do this." It's like I had a specific concept early on, tried to find people. I never really thought about it until recently that I guess it always has been kind of a almost like a solo project in a way, even though I never really thought about it because everybody in the band's so important with their contribution. But I did kind of start off with that kind of thinking, like, you know, this is my vision. Let's find people that share my vision, you know? Well, I mean, the concept is always the same as far as like, you know, we always want to be death metal. We always want to keep the traditional sound that we have. Um, you know, there's no doubt that when you have different people in the band, different lineups, they bring different aspects to the music, and that's just normal to try to make the best of everyone that you work with. But I think overall, I have the same vision. I mean, I always look back to why I started playing in a band every time, you know, I do an album or do anything with the band. I always remember why I do it in the first place. I do it because I love the style of music and I wanted to express myself and be honest. I'm not doing it for the you know, popularity or to fit into any trends or anything. I mean, even when we started off as a band, there were a lot of death metal bands coming out around the same time, but we always looked at ourselves as like a bastard child band because we refused to fall into any of the norms of what other death metal bands were doing back then. It just wasn't, you know, we wanted to do death metal in our own way, and still to this day, we want to just do it our way, and we don't care what the trends are or whatnot. Well, that's super difficult to say what's a favorite because you're basically asking me what's my favorite child or what's my favorite pet, you know? Well, let's put it this way. I mean, our first album, Onward to Go Goth, is always super important because it's our first album, and that's always special. Just for the sake of being the first album, it's a special album, and it was like, you know, first time really going to a proper studio, working with a proper engineer, producer kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's always very special for any musician. you know, and to see some of the music that we've been writing as a band come to life on that album was a magical experience. So it was great, and the lineup was great on that album. I mean, so that's an important one. I mean, like I said, they're all really important, but another one that holds a special place in my heart is Vanquish and Vengeance, because just the overall recording situation, the vibe in the band was just really positive, and I really felt that album really expressed that the lineup that we had in the band really good, and I just think it has a real good live personality on an album. But that being said, you know, they're all really important to me in different ways, so it's really difficult to choose. But those are two like extra special moments, you know, I look at album wise. As far as worst album experience for me, as far as the worst like full length album we did, I would say was what's it called, Infernal Storm. Just because we not because of the drummer we had on it. The drummer we had on it was great. Was Dave Koros, who played with Suffocation and More Than Creation. He's a great drummer, but it was just the fact that we didn't jam on the album enough before recording it. It was kind of like he just learned the stuff immediately and we recorded it. It was like maybe that album, as far as song structure wise, is maybe more in the demo stages, where I would have rather played it with the band for a couple months before going in the studio. But we were in a situation where, you know, we wanted to release the album by a certain date, and we had to get a session guy to do it, and it would just I wouldn't go into an album with a session guy without having the proper prep for it, you know. Oh, the other members? Oh, the other members of the band are always really important. I mean, anything from just the vibe that they bring to the band or the way they play. People play differently and stuff. So, you know, always the people that you write and record the songs with always have a major impact on the way the album sounds and the songs sound. And especially now, with Kyle, especially Kyle and Chuck, who've been Kyle's been in the band for over almost 25 years, and Chuck has been playing bass for us for about 12 years, I guess, maybe 13. So both of those guys both write music, and they both contribute to structure and, you know, every aspect to it. So their input is really important. I mean, I write, I would say, a large majority of the music in the band's history, but you know, both Kyle and Chuck both came up with amazing songs and amazing riffs and amazing contributions to my songs. We make contributions to each other's songs. All the music that we write as a band. Even if somebody primarily writes the riffs, the whole band actually makes the song, you know, what it is. And even with our newest member, Luke Shively, he's been incorporating some amazing stuff in some of the even newer material that we've been working on during this quarantine. So everybody is always really important. You know, everybody has an input. I don't run it as this is the riff and that's it and that's the way it's going. It's like I give people the basic idea sometimes of a song. You know, they first of all, they tell me if they like it or don't like it, and then if they like it, we work on it and we try to make it into something special. Okay. Well, first of all, I want to just mention about what you're saying about the first album making an impact in Mexico, because there's always been a strong connection between our style of death metal and like the I don't know, I guess I call it like Central and South American death metal fans. Even, because I mean, obviously, there's a lot of Central South Americans that live in America too, in North America. So they've always been a strong part of our fan base. For some reason, the music that we play just always really related to them. But to be fair, our influences were also a lot. We were really influenced by the early Brazilian scene, like bands like Sepultura and Volcano and Chile's Pentagram, bands like that. So those kind of influences have always been part of us, and it's been such it's just great because there's a special connection that they have with our barbaric style of death metal that do well in other parts of the world. It always seems like the Mexico or South America or whatnot, you just feel it in the veins. It's something very special, and we recognize that. We really appreciate it because it's just nice. It's nice to know that regardless of the trends are musically, we always have a home in places like Mexico or South America. But anyway, as far as touring goes, yes, I personally still really like touring. I love traveling. I love going around the world and visiting places, and I love playing shows. I love meeting our fans. I love playing for new fans that never got the opportunity to see us. I love playing for the old school fans. So for me, it's an absolute pleasure to be able to tour, and I never take it for granted. I know that I am a very fortunate musician to get the opportunity to take music that we wrote as a band and be able to perform it for people on the other side of the planet and have them really appreciate it and mean something to. So, I think, in my opinion, it's like, music has really connected me with people from all over the world, and I really, I really feel it's just one of the great things in the world that really bring people together in a positive way under, just the love of music, and especially because we're writing music that is very personal to us. So when people do enjoy it, it's super awesome because they're enjoying us being ourselves, not us trying to write music. We're not trying to write music for other people to like necessarily, but when they do like us, it's extra cool, Well, people say that, yes. I mean, and I'm honored by it, but I don't, I just blow it off. I just know that I'm just like anybody else. I grew up as a metal fan, and I wanted to express myself with music my own way. And I've been very fortunate that people could relate to what we do, and it's great to know that we've been, a band, been an influence on many other bands and been a strong part of other people's lives. So, I mean, I appreciate it. Do I feel like I'm a legend or anything? No, I don't look at myself as a legend. I look at myself as just someone that is very fortunate to be able to, be successful at being myself as a musician, But I'm honored. I'm honored by it. I mean, anybody that feels that way or says nice things, of course, I am appreciative of it. Very gracious to that, to those kind of terms. But I don't necessarily look at myself that way. I look at myself, like I said, just as a musician that has been very fortunate. I wouldn't say I listen to a lot of new stuff. I listen to some. I mostly enjoy my 80s classics, or I enjoy, so the death metal bands, say, of my era, the late 80s, early 90s are my favorites. But there are newer bands out there that I do think are quite good, I mean, there's a couple bands I really like is this band called Motor Furum. I think they're from Seattle or Portland, the USA. They're a really cool band. Also, Gene used to play in Angel Corpse, has a British Temple band which is a really good one too. I really like that album. There's a bunch of bands. There's a new band from Chicago called Molder, which is really good. Um, let's see, like Faith Extractor is another great band. They're from Pennsylvania. Ascended Dead's a really good band. I like Undergang. They're a band from Denmark that plays old school style death metal. It's good. I mean, I like some newer stuff. It's just, I'm more. Of course, I listen to the stuff that I grew up with a lot. I love like bands like Asphyx and Dismember and Entombed, Grave, and Old Morbid Angel, and bands like Possessed and Creator and Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath. All that kind of stuff. Exciter. Well, death metal has definitely been through a lot of phases and trends and stuff like that. I think death metal in the early '90s is just different because the technology of recording was a lot different back then. Now, or even 20 years ago, with digital recordings, it just made things easier to edit and fix, and it tightened up a lot of bands. And sometimes the tightening up of bands end up abusing it too much, and it gets super tight and like super technical, and they sometimes lose a little bit of the feeling that some of, say, the older bands had, who actually had to play all the stuff on their albums for real, and then they didn't have someone to go in and fix these parts for them. So that's definitely a problem. But a positive thing these days, at least when it comes to 2020, is that there's more variety in death metal now. There's a good old school death metal scene out there, which bands that are trying to keep the traditional style of death metal alive. But then there's also lots of other styles of death metal, like more technical stuff and just gore grind and all these different death metal. So to me, I think it's good that there's lots of different styles of death metal. But obviously, I'm happy that say the older school style is back, because that's more in my pocket. But there's never going to be another 1990, 91 in death metal again, because there just isn't that kind. That time death metal was in its infancy, and there was still stuff to be done. So like new stuff to be put into the music. Now it's a lot more difficult to be original. So. Oh, it's easy. It's not. It's always a task to make a new album. But as far as like writing material and stuff, it's pretty easy. We're just super inspired as a band. The people that I work with are amazing. Other guys in the band are awesome. They all inspire me as a musician. They play. They play well. They come up with great stuff. So it's really simple to be inspired and to play. I would, I mean, we wouldn't put out a new album if we didn't feel like there was some thing we wanted to express musically. We're not just doing albums for the sake of doing albums. We're doing albums because they're very passionate to us and mean a lot to us, to express ourselves as musicians. And we're appreciative that we have the vehicle to do that in a mass way, being on Relapse and whatnot. But it's it's always stressful and fun and everything when you do a new album, because you never know how people are going to like it, if they're going to understand where you're coming from as a musician and stuff like that. But we've been very fortunate. But really, in time, I would say it's easier to write music and do an album than it was early on, because as a band, we have more experience on how to do things, and we also know how to express ourselves better as musicians, because after doing it for so long, writing music, to me at least, becomes like an extra sense that I have. It's not something that just flows out of me with the mood I'm trying to express. It's pretty awesome, actually. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I let's see. Obviously, I mean, we're definitely really happy with it. Uh, as far as my contribution to it, I wanted to incorporate some of the more old school, simpler, but haunting type harmonies to it, and try to concentrate a little more on the mid-tempo aspect of our music. Um, on this one, I mean, there's still doom stuff and there's still fast, aggressive stuff, but I wanted to kind of I wanted to try to do something more in the vein of like a song like Profanation or Iconoclasm of Catholicism, where it has a more driving mid-tempo vibe to it. So I think, I think we were successful in um, what we wanted to accomplish with it. We wanted to make it a a different album than our last one. I mean, I really like Profane Nexus, but every album we do is basically kind of like connected to the album we do before it, in a way where, we'll either, if there's certain aspects of the album after doing it, we realize we could, you know, work more on, like, take part of this ideas and maybe expand on it, or maybe an album's missing something and we want to expand more on a different aspect of the band. So yeah, I'm really happy with the way the new album came out. I hope everybody else is. I don't really know. I mean, we were hoping to we're hoping still to tour Europe in November. I don't know if it's going to happen because there's still some travel restrictions, so we're waiting on that. It was supposed to be us in Belfagor, which would have been a really cool tour. And I know that originally we were planning in October to do some Central and South America dates with us in Suffocation again, because we had such a good time in Mexico. But that got postponed until a later date. So right now we just don't really know. We just have to kind of wait. We just hope that things get kind of straightened out with this COVID stuff, and we can get back on track to touring. But you just got to deal with it as it comes. And we've been taking the time now, working on some new material, music wise. So it's, in a way, it's nice to have the extra time at home too, to concentrate on other aspects of things, because we did do a lot of touring for last album. I just, I don't know. I mean, I would just tell them that, we played death metal, very honest, very pure, very primal way. It just, it's about, kicking ass and just trying to make it heaviest, aggressive, evil, just, tell everybody to fuck off and do what you want kind of metal. It has nothing to do with trends. It doesn't matter about if it's old or new. It's about pushing the limits and just being true to yourself, and not being anti-trend. Yeah, I guess that's all I can think of. Well, thank you, sir. I definitely next time we play Mexico City, if you can, just try to come up to me and chat and remind me about the interview and stuff, so we can chat a little bit at the show. Okay. Take care. Thank you. Adios, amigo. Hey, adios, cabrones. Cabrones. See ya. Bye.